welcome to another episode of Management Thoughts in 15 Minutes. Today's topic of discussion is decision making. I know it sounds a bit boring, but let's make it a bit more interesting by looking at decision making from a sports perspective. So let's play on. Is decision making really that difficult? Maybe not. Let's first try and understand what decision making is all about. Decision making is all about having a set of alternatives and then trying to find a course of action. And what is the end objective that you clearly are aware of. So to put it into a very single line, you know what the objective is, you have a set of alternatives with you, and all that you have to do is just find out and identify that one course of action that will take you to that particular objective. That is what decision making is all about. But this does not seem as easy, as we all think it is. There must be something else about decision making that really makes it difficult. And yes, you got to have hurdles to decision making. There are plenty of hurdles that you will always face in terms of decision making to be done. And let's look at some of the alternatives here to understand how they actually create a hurdle for you while making a decision making. The first thing is initial info. The initial information that we receive, we stick with it. We believe that's true, we believe that's all that is available, and we stick with that particular information to take the decision for the final objective. Maybe that's not the right way of approaching it. Second, overconfidence. Overconfidence is there in every activity that we do, but more so in decision making. Sometimes we become so overconfident that the information that we have and the decision that we take is so correct that we just do not look into other alternatives and other sources of information that are available to us. Third most important thing, we have a set of beliefs with us, and whatever information we get, we only filter those that suit our beliefs and support our own beliefs, and so that the decision taken is in line with what we believe. A very big hurdle, especially in decision making. Group drifting. Group drifting, typically what happens is you have a bunch of people who are actually probably taking the decision, and then when one or two try and tend to take a particular decision and move in a direction, all of them try to go along with it. So no one is challenging the other person in terms of what is the rationale, what is the decision all about, and what the outcome is going to be. The entire group starts drifting towards one or two individuals who probably are taking those decisions. And the most important thing which I believe in decision making is extremely critical is don't just reward the short term. You got to reward for the long term also. You got to take a decision that will stay with you for a very long time and help you in the long run, and not just short term benefits. These are some of the hurdles that I have defined here. There may be plenty more. There are quite a few hurdles to this, but there are some of these initial hurdles that if we can overcome, we might take a better decision over it. Now for the interesting part. As I mentioned, let's look at decision making from a sports perspective. Okay, so let's assume we have a sports league. Okay, the sports league has multiple teams and each team has an owner. Now the team owner's job is to pick out players for the team so that they can win the championship. Now I should admit here that I've referred to a management model, a decision making management model that I read elsewhere, but I've just adapted that for the sports league example, so it becomes easy for all of us to understand, because we all are sports fans, to try and understand how decision making can be made and how decision making actually is impacted by two simple factors that all of us do not realize is there. But these two simple factors which this model actually tries to emphasize is very critical. So the first factor is performance. Okay, decision making is typically performance, which is absolute or it is relative. We perform for ourselves or we have to perform in relation to someone else. The second factor is control, which is either low or high. I'll explain as we go along the next steps here. So starting off with low control and absolute performance sort of an example. So let's consider the sports fan. Okay, the sports fan has to pick and choose one team that he promotes, one team that he supports. Now, is there any pressure on him in terms of which team he wants to select? The answer is no, because he can just pick up any team that he wants to support and promote. Is there any control that he has in terms of the factors as to why he's selecting a particular team or what he likes about the particular team? Probably not. It is just more of a feeling. The fan just wants to pick up one team that he wants to support, so his decision making becomes that much more simpler. Going on to the next grid, the player at an individual level. Now when the player is practicing, right, he's practicing at an absolute performance level. He is not practicing as to how others are performing. He has to perform for himself, so he has to practice as to how he needs to perform and be good for the match. Now, does he have a control over the factors? And the answer is yes. If he wants to give a really good performance in the final match, or as the matches go along during the league, he has to practice it every single day the way he wants to. He can control whether he wants to practice in the day, want to practice in the night, does he want to practice on the main ground, or does he want to practice at home. So as he can practice, the entire control of all the factors is within him. And the performance is also absolute to him only and not related to anybody else. The third part here would be the team owner, a very critical person or very critical cog in the wheel, if I can call, who actually controls all the team members and the teams, and the sports league is made of these team owners. Now, as far as the team owner is concerned, he has to pick players for his team who will win him the championship. But unfortunately, he has to take a decision, or he has to pick those players in relative to what the other team owners are thinking. Now that's a bit challenging here, because if you are owner of a team A, you do not know what the other team owners B, C, D are thinking about. So your decision making to a great extent is dependent on what the others are thinking and who they plan to choose to pick up. So you not only have to think ahead of them, you also have to outwit them in your thoughts, in your plans and your decisions. And so that, because of which your performance becomes relative. Your performance is in relation to what the others are going to perform. Do we have any control? Does the team owner have any control in terms of who he gets to pick or choose? Probably not, because if one player whom he is trying to pick up has already been picked up by somebody else, for example, then there is nothing much he can do about it, or he can't pick and choose a particular player who already is not given away by the other team, or the other team is still holding back to that particular player. So in terms of control, he does not have much control, but yes, as in terms of performance, his decision making is extremely relative. The most important part of this entire story is the team. Does the team have control over all the actions that they do? Can they play the entire game at the best level, the best capacity? So do you have the control over all the decisions that they make? The answer is yes. Do they have to play a game for themselves and perform for themselves? The answer is no. They have to perform in relative or in relation to what the other team is going to perform. So they have to win the match, so they have to play better than the other team. So if I put this into this 2x2 matrix, if I call it, against performance versus control, you would get a very clear idea in terms of how the fan, a player, a team owner or a team, how each factor influences the decisions that they have to take. This is what I was trying to explain in terms of decision making from a sports league perspective. We spoke about hurdles to decision making, but there must be something that would really help us make better decisions, right? Some factors or some help or some indication that could help us make better decisions, and that helps in the long run also. So I've just listed some of them here. The first would be learning from experience. Very critical piece. We make a lot of decisions throughout our life, but do we learn from a bad decision, or do we even learn from a good decision also in terms of how we can take the next decision? So learning from experience becomes that much more critical for all of us. Second is stock up your options. As I mentioned in the hurdles slide, we just restrict ourselves to amount of information that we have and then try and take decisions over it. If you try and increase the number of options, the number of thoughts, the information that we have, if we keep on adding to the, if I can use the entire gamut of options that we have, then probably our decision making can become better, if not the best as such. Discussion. In the group drifting example, we spoke about all of the entire group actually moving along with the two leaders or two people who are taking those decisions. So here I would also prophesy saying discuss. There's nothing wrong about discussing your thoughts, discussing your decisions, talking about your what are the options and alternatives that you have with as many people as possible, because when you discuss with others, when you bounce your thought with others, it actually gives you a lot more insights and a lot more thoughts as to how you can make that one final decision really well. And lastly, question yourself. We do not ask ourselves if we have the entire thought clear. We do not question ourselves. We do not check if we have all the details with us. We do not, sometimes it happens so that you make a decision and then we do not roll back and see how the decision may impact A, B or C. So if you actually take a step back and question yourself and look at all the factors and then the decision and then the what is going to happen after taking the decision, probably that would help us make some better decisions even at that particular stage. I know that has been an overdose of decision making and hurdles and models and how we can make better decisions and all those things. The other end of the spectrum actually is something like, let's not complicate this entire decision making mechanism. The best thing to do is, as Henry Singleton once said, he said, my only plan is to keep coming to work every single day, and then I would steer the boat each day rather than plan ahead way into the future. Probably a good thought, a simple thought, but if you actually think about it, it actually means a lot. You don't have to think way ahead into your life, 50, 60 years way ahead in your life. If you can even take the small decisions that's going to impact you in the next 15 days or month or maybe a 6-month period, probably that's good enough. Or the best thing is just do your best every single day that you wake up in the morning till you go to sleep the night. Make each and every day the best possible. Not think too much about what's going to happen to your life in future. That's all we have for today. Thanks for your time and do watch out for next video. Till we meet again. Bye.